Yes, Brian, hello again. It is so delightful to see you another time.
It's delightful to see you too, buddy. What if, in this current timeline that we find ourselves in, where
What
we
a
this
time to be
isn't
alive.
it's not a current events thing, but I will say I did not have the news that just came in today on my bingo card, which was Afro Man winning a suit against police departments for
Yeah.
his satirical songs. I, and making music videos for YouTube in an all-American flag suit about how they're stupid sons of bitches who now he's rich off their money. Like this is fantastic. I didn't.
You know, like I I would not have predicted a resurgence of Afro Man ever
No,
because I got high. I thought was going to be the peak for this guy,
I
but
I think it's a peak for a lot of people. You know what I mean? That would have been a solid peak. Do you know what I mean? Like people would
sure.
be like,
Oh yeah,
great.
yeah. Definitely, definitely. But yeah, if he's still doing his damn thing, like good on him.
I encourage
Love to
people
see it.
to check
Shout out to
out
Mercury
Randy
retrograde,
Walters. Yeah, very Mercury retrograde. Yeah, we were talking about that a little off camera about how this one is a particularly like it's a very retrograde. You know what I mean? Like it's just throwing stuff up. It doesn't, and I don't mean like, oh, computers fail. I mean like shit you didn't see coming back up again is like
Yeah.
just coming back up again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot of confusion and paradox. A lot of
Yeah,
like
yeah.
opposites. Like, are you sure that you think what you think, and all of that kind of stuff, which actually is kind of my wheelhouse a little bit. So I'm kind of into how this has been going, but it has been a little bit exhausting.
It has been a little bit exhausting. I do think, and you can tell me if this is just bullshit or not, but I think having been born with natal Mercury retrograde, that now everybody else just has to deal with what I deal with all the time. You know what I mean? Like, well, welcome to what is normal for me, guys. It doesn't mean that this isn't still annoying for me. It just means that the rest of you are now getting an insight into what it's like every day.
Sure. Yeah, I have definitely seen Mercury retrograde natives thrive under Mercury retrogrades. But you happen to have a Mercury placement that is, it's not quite dignified, but it's certainly not fallen Mercury in
No, it's not
Pisces,
bad. No, I have a
where
nice.
it's all confusion and metaphor and melody on a good day, but like super weird on all of the days. Like this is a lot. And I was just doing the forecast episode with Plant Cunning.
Oh,
So
awesome.
we do a quarterly forecast every 3 months,
Yeah,
and it's great to do that. We've been doing that for like 4 years now or something like that. But Isaac really loves the ingress chart for especially
for
the
the
Aries
U.S.
ingress. That's like his favorite, and we look at that one, and so it'll be like for the whole year, or there are rules about how long it's going to last and stuff. And this Mercury retrograde is baked into this ingress chart in a really big way. It's
Oh,
ruling the
interesting.
rising also. So there's a lot there about confusion and that kind of thing. And with this being as exhausting and as much as it has been, I figure I'll just like kind of softball you one here, just
Okay, sure.
some easy.
Gently.
So Brian, in your estimation, what is truth, and how do we get there?
I'm gonna answer you like a Sufi. Hold on.
Yeah, there we go.
Wait. I'm gonna do a magic trick. I
Okay,
prepared this for
yeah.
you. Yeah. It's my little bit of transubstantiation.
Ooh, fancy, fancy.
Fancy. Fancy. What is truth? Okay.
No, what we do is we mix drinks in the face of that.
We do. Well, I think the first thing there is it's always tempting to turn that question into something else. Like people like to twist that question. I mean, I will default a little bit to Keats here and say that truth is beauty and beauty truth. But that's also kind of a dodge. You know what I mean? That we're defining a thing by another thing, as is a poet's want. I would say for me as a starting point that truth is what you have when all the things that are not a thing are no longer attached to a thing.
When all of the things that are not a thing are, I don't know what you said.
So I would say for me, truth gets into a question of an essence, right? So what is it that you're what how do you circle around a thing so that it is itself and there's nothing else distracting you from it? Now, I would
So
argue that
purity is an important
sort of,
element of.
but as this illustration I just did, which is actually on purpose, this is arak, right? It's an anise liqueur from Lebanon. They like to call it lion's milk because you add a little water to it, it gets cloudy, right? So it is not true that arak is cloudy. It is not true that water is cloudy, but it is true that lion's milk is cloudy, right? So you can have something that's a mix of multiple things. It's just a singular experience, right? That is of its own essence, right? It doesn't have to be. We don't have to break it down into simply constituent parts. And it's actually interesting that you bring this up because Jesse got me talking about Alfred North Whitehead again the other day. So dropping into that. And Whitehead's idea that it is the relationality between things that creates and defines them. And so I don't really want to reduce things to just their like atomic pieces. I'm interested in the relationality between them, but I am interested in the. I think it is true when you can, or you can say a truth if you are completely describing that relationality in a temporal way, like for that moment. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, well, this is clearly born out. My question here is clearly born out of this current moment that we live in, where we have nothing like a singular mainstream narrative
Right.
to turn to anymore. And you
Sure.
can debate how true the mainstream narrative ever was, but at least there used to be a singular mainstream narrative that was a
Yeah.
set point that everyone could kind of revolve around or be against or something like that. Whereas now we're in a moment where you can't even be sure that you are like your algorithm is feeding you the thing that it thinks that you will watch, not
Right.
necessarily the same thing that other people will watch, and
Right.
not necessarily tethered to fact or reality in any meaningful sense. And so, confusion is the name of the game out here. But we still got to live. We still got to do shit. We still got to make decisions about
Yeah.
stuff. Still have to form opinions about things and such. And so, how do we go about navigating this environment, do you think?
So
Is
yeah,
truth
I
even
mean,
relevant? Maybe I'm asking the wrong question here.
I really love when you do this because it makes me sit makes me sit down and pull things apart. It's also inevitably when we come to sit down to these things, there are certain aspects of the last 2 weeks or however long since we've been hanging out that sort of clarify for me or become relevant. Suddenly they light up with that question. The question lights them up. So maybe 3 weeks ago, somewhere 2 3 weeks ago, Frater Acher, who I like as a magical writer quite a lot, did a piece on using like interacting with artificial intelligence as a magician. And his contention was that to not use artificial intelligence was very similar to what you and I have talked about, just leaving power on the table to people who are going to use it. It has
I
its
made that
uses
point
as
on
a
the
tool.
plant cutting show yesterday,
Did you?
and they
Yeah.
were not about it.
People are really afraid of it in a lot of
Uh-huh.
ways, and or have some big
And these are
objections. And
homies. These are people who I
I
love,
know
whose opinions I really trust. And like, and I said that on the show, and they were like, uh, uh.
there's a little bit of a tribal shibboleth around it too. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
people just being like, But some of us are a little more Promethean than others, right? We're willing to steal some fire
Mm-hmm.
from the
Mm-hmm.
gods and use
Mm-hmm.
it if we can, and some people aren't, and that's okay. But but his point about it was magicians really should be the people doing this because you should be, as a magician, used to discernment.
Hmm.
Like, you shouldn't be accepting as true what spirits tell you either. You should, you know what I mean? Like, you should
Mm-hmm.
be used to double checking all your sources, using stuff for what they're good for, understanding that everything has a motive behind it, and that, you know, the relationality between you and, you know, an animal you meet in the forest is not necessarily one of truth or trust, but of mutual aid at best, right? Like the goal would be to get out of there with everybody
Mm-hmm.
having a win. So the question then becomes, well, how do we get to discernment? Which is where truth comes in. How do we decide what is true or true enough to work with? You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And I think true enough to work with is good enough for our purposes. Like, there probably is some big T truths out there, but I'm not smart enough or paid enough to figure them out. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
but and so then for me, truth is going to have to involve a certain amount of trust, in the sense that, like, it's something you can replicate. It's something you can
Mm-hmm.
generally rely on, right? As a, 85% of the time, this is going to pan out to be reliable as an approach.
Mm-hmm.
So
Useful. Truth
yeah,
is defined by its utility.
utility, which I consider, and because you and I share this opinion of form and shape, I consider useful, strong shapes to be beautiful, to be, you know what I mean, and to have an essence that you can sort of work with. So, what do you? So you just had to talk with the plant cunning. Here's a good question. Like, people can have the reality tunnel point of view that AI is bad, right? That it deceives people, that it eats up resources from the planet,
Mm-hmm.
that it's a way for techno fascist billionaires to control people, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, none of these are 100% wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It is certainly being used in these fashions, and it is tough on the environment in some ways. On the other hand, it has also already helped identify knee injuries in people that, particularly in black and brown people, that white doctors were not identifying,
Mm-hmm.
right? In part because they had all been trained on different knee structures that excluded people of color from the sample size. But
Mm-hmm.
the AI didn't have that bias in it because it just wanted to see, is this part of the knee wrong? You know what I mean? It didn't care, right? So it's already done things like that. It's already made cancer research easier. It's
Mm-hmm.
already made significant strides in various kinds of medicine. It has actually already helped with the allocation of resources so that there are environmental benefits to AI as
Mm-hmm.
well, right? And so if you have to balance those two things, the relationship between those two things of, like, yes, it's a tool that can be used for technocratic, billionaire control. It also could be used to save lives and help people out and produce more freedom in some cases as well. Like, the discernment then is like, well, how am I using it? How does it work for me? And is what I am doing trying to improve freedom and help and good stuff for the people around me, or am I using it to, do nasty bad things in my own neighborhood? I mean, all those people using Grok to, like, create naked images of women in their lives that weren't giving them naked images. You know what I mean? Like, that shit's criminal and gross. Like, but it's power either way. Like, power. So, this is a long ramble to come back to. Then we have to think about how we use discernment, what we think is true about power, and what we need to know about power, and then work down from there, right? So,
Mm.
I don't know. How do you wrestle with truth ishness, truth type things? Like, where do you personally experience the most friction with the multiple narratives, or where does this come up for you most commonly, where you're like, I'm getting a lot of information. It's hard to see through the fog. Like, you know what I mean? Like, where does this enter your life in terms of this stuff?
Well, my favorite thing right now is remembering that I don't have to have a take on everything.
Yeah, yeah,
So, should my country be at war right now, I don't have to have a take on that, you know?
you don't have the chance to stop it from happening.
Precisely. I'm not a
Yeah,
decision maker in that space. And so I can have whatever opinions I want to have, but like what's happening is what's happening. And the likelihood that I'm going to pay for it either way is 100%.
it's
So,
100%. Yes.
so I don't have to have a take about that. And in fact, having a take on that may make my quality of life lower because I can spend my days and nights mad, or
Right.
I can simply be like, this is not my sphere of influence, and so I don't have to deal with that. And so I'm not going to touch. I don't have to have a take on everything.
For sure. It's interesting. This is a good area to think with. So I have tried to limit where I apply my takes with this stuff, right? So I do have a take. I find it
Well, yeah,
embarrassing
you're
and
you.
stupid that we're at war, and I
Sure.
dislike it. But there's a utility to me in having this particular take, in that it also has to do with me looking around at how this is going to affect the economy, how it's going to affect the livelihood of the people around me. And because I'm concerned with how do I protect that, I need to be looking at it and going, what did you idiots do? And how is that going to force me to do things? I also, I enjoy writing and thinking with political things, and having opinions about that. But it is important for me to remember that I can certainly do the methods of intervention that are available to me. You know what I mean? I can write nasty letters. I
You sure
can
can.
do a lot of prayer, which actually is the one I prefer personally, prayer and magic for things, because I'm a magician. But see, this is the thing, right? So where's my power again? No senator is ever going to pay attention to my letter.
Sure.
They're not going to.
Uh-huh.
It's possible that enough of us getting together to pressure more local politicians could get them to say something. Could get them to object in some way, and I do think there's utility in that. But my real sphere of influence is poetry and magic, and so as so much as my take has an application, it has to have an application through those spheres, because I can't really do anything else. So I think what I used to do as a kid, or younger anyway, would be, have these long conversations about things and be really mad about it, and work myself up and do stuff. That anger is still there. I am passionately angry about a lot of this kind of stuff. But before, I would then just leave it there. Like maybe I'd write a nasty tweet.
Sure.
Ooh,
Yeah.
look at the world change from my tweet, you know. But I do think that actually things like prayer are remarkably powerful. And so, while I may not see the good of asking the angel Raphael to bring peace to an area, right? Like, where I may not know what that outcome is, I do think there are outcomes related to that, and so, and again, largely because I have seen outcomes from angel magic on all kinds of things, right? So that's one reason I turned to those figures in this case. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I have I've made it my job to predict the future. And so as
Yeah.
such, I take it as a responsibility of mine to ingest a lot of information,
Same.
in the geopolitical space, but not only in the geopolitical space, in more domestic politics and in like a lot of different areas. I think of so I predict the future as my job, right? And so I see smart as a function of a good predictive model. So that is to
Sure.
say that to be smart is to accurately predict outcomes. That's what it is to be smart. Like that's a definitional
Yeah.
understanding of what smart is to be able to accurately predict outcomes. And so I see you smirking there. So
No,
please
the
chew
smirk
all of
was
that
no,
before we
no,
go
no.
any
You
further,
know,
because
no.
I have been
You're
talking to people about this and motherfuckers hate this definition, and I still think I'm right.
no. I think you're right too. I actually, and again, maybe it's because I also try to predict the future a bunch and then spend time. You know, maybe those of us who think this way have this. I was just thinking about the idiocy of this particular war game approach to fucking with Iran
Hmm.
because your college freshman who'd spent any time just looking at the geography or paying any attention to the last 20, 30 years would have been like, yeah, they're probably going to just like, I don't know, fuck the world's oil economy. Like that's what they
Sure.
have the power to do. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of their option, you know?
Uh-huh.
And the fact that there were multiple people who were like, no, this apocalyptic theocratic regime is going to roll over easy when we kill their supreme leader.
Right.
You know, it'll be a
They,
walk in
they
the
got a
park.
little
I'm
drunk
like,
on the Venezuela thing, I think.
they did. That's a very, but like, actually, here's a moment of discernment. Okay, even if you are Pete Hegseth and in the bag and very wet most of the time, the idea that Venezuela and Iran are the same country is a real failure of discernment.
Sure, sure.
You know?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, I am honestly astounded at how dumb the approach has been.
Yeah,
Uh, if we use that same definition of smart or dumb
yeah,
as the
exactly.
opposite of
Yeah,
that, like they poorly predicted outcomes. And I am astounded as to how poorly they predicted these outcomes. So,
it's really wild, and this gets this gets into your reality tunnel thing too. And I want to come back to what you were saying, man. But you got me smirking because this stuff cracks me up.
sure.
Have you seen the thing about the shoes?
No.
Okay, so Trump went out and he bought his cabinet like cheap shoes, like Florsheim, get them at Sears, you know what I mean, kind of shoes. 160
Okay.
bucks shoes, tops,
Okay.
right? Dress shoes. At the shoe size he said he thought they should be. So now, yep. And so now all these like Secretary of State level people are walking around in shoes that are too big for them because they're afraid to
Sure.
tell him that they don't fit.
Huh.
And
Okay.
like this is
Cool.
some Emperor's New
What could go
Like
wrong?
this is a whole new parable being written in front of us. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
the counselor's new shoes kind of shit. But like
Indeed.
the idea that like to announce that we were doing airstrikes in Iran, Pete Hegseth had to like shuffle up to the platform
Yeah. Huh.
like he was a
Okay.
child in his daddy's shoes.
Yeah. Right. Right.
You know, so yeah, you're not going to get much truth out of those people because they're submitting to the reality tunnel where their feet should be a certain size.
Sure. Yeah. I am astounded as to how dumb the situation is. I don't.
Super dumb.
I didn't realize that it could be that because like this whole time I've been, I correctly predicted Trump's first victory, and
Yeah,
actually I
that's right.
correctly predicted his second one as well. But I'd take less credit for that one. The first victory, I predicted that was before I had a platform, but I predicted
Yeah,
that like a year out or something like that.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I was in New York City, and nobody believed me. They were like, "This is not possible at all," and I was like, "That's why it's possible." But
yeah.
and so this whole time I've been like, Trump is not the idiot that you think he is. He's just a gangster,
No,
and so
right.
he's like so he's doing gangster shit that you don't clock, but like it's actually like there is strategy here, but whew, this is really putting holes in my argument over here. Like,
I mean, Donnie's off his game. You know what I mean? Like it's not like
fair enough. Fair enough.
actually heard a good thing about this, which was how your own blind spots can get you, right? So I actually
Sure.
do think that as a manipulator, as a someone who can grab attention and change story narrative and stuff, he has a wild amount of power. You know, we're still talking
Yeah,
about
yeah, yeah.
like 12 to 14 grown ass men with a fair amount of power behind them who could stage coups, who could do, you know what I mean, could do all these different political things, walking around in shoes that are the wrong size because he told them to. So, like, you know, that's power, man. You know, it's
Totally.
there. But
This is an
in
argument for new
addition,
thought.
it is. In addition to the impending and very clear dementia that's happening there. On top of it, though, the people who used to clean up his shit, who were sort of quietly refining whatever he did in the background, have been slowly falling away over the past 5 to 10 years. Some of them are in jail. Some of them died, you know, and everything else. But like, if you look at Trump one, he was surrounded by a bunch of people who, you know, euphemistically called the adults in the room, but these other power actors who were cleaning things up left and right. You know, he got rid of all those people. It's just the sycophants, and so like it's the same thing right now where he's like, the United States doesn't need any help from anybody else. We're the biggest in the this fucking tantrum he threw the other day. And it's like, if your dad has been quietly paying off the refs your whole life, you know what I mean? Like some of your strategies are going to work in a way that they wouldn't have worked otherwise. But then if nobody's paying off the refs, all of a sudden, like you know, like you get punched in the mouth, man, and it's going to get rough out there. So
Indeed. Indeed.
you know,
Yeah, so we have to do a good job. So I see it as my job to take in all of this disparate information and then make something intelligibly useful
yeah,
out of it. You know,
yep,
and that's what I've been doing with astrology this whole time. You know, and that's what I teach people to do. Also, if people want to go check out astrology from the ground up, then you are welcome to learn astrology from me the way that I had the way that I learned it and the way that I teach it. It's all relational, and so it's a good way to learn how to take many different opaque symbols and turn them into something that is intelligible to someone who doesn't speak that language, which I think is something which is useful beyond the scale of just doing astrology readings. But so that's what I do, and that's what I think about all the time, and that's what I'm thinking about all the time when I'm ingesting geopolitical information or whatever else, you know. But or you know, medical information and this kind of thing. Also, you know what I mean? Like ever since 2020, that has been blown open really wide, and so there's this
yeah,
open question about, and none of the institutions are trustworthy at this point, right? And so there are all of these open questions that are open all the time, and you just have to get in there as a layperson and just be like, all
yeah.
right, here
Just
I
do your
go.
best.
So it's such a fucking mess that I'm interested in how to navigate the mess. And I'm actually at a point now where I am moving away from fact and moving more toward pattern.
So this is a little bit of the Whitehead stuff I was talking about too, right? Like you could take it in the same direction of like, because the facts on the ground can change. Do you know what I mean? Like what like a fact is, I mean, first off, I always like that a fact comes from the same root as like factotum or factory or any of this other sort of stuff. Like it's a thing that's made. Like you made a fact.
Sure.
Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Like, and it is a made thing, and I think that's a good way to see them. Is that they are useful made things in a in a in a larger story. But if the pattern doesn't work out, if the overarching stuff, then they're not useful anymore. You know, or you've seen them the wrong way, or you know this kind of stuff. Like
There's always a question as to which ones are the ones to pay attention to. because, as
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson likes to point out, there are more facts than there are things in the world.
Yes. Yes. The so the patterning allows you to predict where we're going. If you know what story you're in, you can start to see, and you can take actions to change a pattern. You can't change a fact, so it's not really useful either in that same sense of like it's already
Yeah,
dead. Yeah.
I'm interested. I'm not actually sure how much pattern changing can take place, but I am there's probably a certain amount of that can take place, but the I am really interested in, especially in this moment of technological innovation. I've been thinking a lot recently about distinguishing between old ways of doing things or old
Mm-hmm.
ways of knowing things
Mm-hmm.
versus ancient ways of knowing
Mm.
things.
Mm.
So we can think about my favorite example is the lamplighter, right? So there
Okay.
used to be a job for somebody who, after the sun goes down, then you go and you light the street lamps. So you take your little torch and you light all the street lamps, and so then that lights up the night so that people can still move around in the nighttime and whatever. And that is somebody's job for a while. And then electrification happens, and the lamplighters don't have their jobs anymore. And so Luddites are people
Right.
who resist the industrial revolution, and they're effectively a workers movement, right? They're like
Yeah.
we these are people who have dignified jobs, and this labor is very important, and we're gonna stick to this kind of situation. I think it's
Yeah.
basically impossible to look back on lamplighting and be like, that was a better way to do it than
Yeah.
electrification is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I just don't think you can make that argument.
It's
And so,
it's true for most of the Luddite things, I think, actually. Like it's like
right,
yeah.
exactly, and that's why we sort of, as a culture, we laugh at Luddites. It's because they're sort of like stuck in a kind of backward way of thinking about
Right.
things, right? And so I would consider that the old way of doing things, which is separate from the ancient way of understanding things. And so when I think about the ancient way of understanding things, when I'm especially because I like patterns so much, then I like to think about things like wives' tales
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or aphorisms or things like that, things that are sort of emergent phenomena that get said and get passed down for a certain period of time. And so then that gives you a context or a lens through which you can see how things are operating and be like, oh, this is that one. This is
Mm-hmm.
that saying. And so we can see how stuff is going to operate because the saying goes this way. And so even though I am not trying to kill two birds with one stone right now,
Right.
that is effectively what I'm doing, even though I'm not trying to kill
Yeah.
birds in this moment. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, because we have sayings like that, then that can help us to understand this moment because sayings like that outlive their historical context.
Yeah. One of my favorites is lipstick on a pig.
Sure.
It's just like putting lipstick on a pig, and you're like, oh, I
Yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
not altered the essential nature of this relationship.
Right. My
Um,
the producer of all my albums, he says you can't polish a turd.
right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. One of the things I love about geomancy is that it is, and in the same way that astrology is, or at least the way you look at it, it is interactive in that way. It's built on these relationships and stuff that are going on, and I'm gonna say it here because I thought she had a brilliant one here. But Marissa had a brilliant delineation today on one she was working on. It's an Amicio figure, so a figure of loss, tears, Venus. That it's Venus drunk at the bar, right? And so an Amicio plus an Amicio gives you populace. It gives you too much of anything. Gives you the river. Gives you a river of tears. And she was like, "This is like two drunk girls at the bar crying at each other." And when you see it, and you see that archetype and that relationship come into place, you're like, "Oh my God, I know exactly what this nature is." Because the aphorisms, even when they lose they're figurative enough, right? you can feel trying to hit two birds with one stone. You know, even though you probably have never tried to do that, you just pick up a rock for a second, like, this is going to be a waste of my time. You know, you can really feel that. There's something very physical about it. And it's the same thing about like thinking of like seeing two drunk girls at the bar crying at each other. You're like, oh, this is, no one is going to stop them. You know, this is just going to continue. This is going to continue to feed on each other the whole time. And it's this beautiful thing. And so I think that gets me back to something else about how do we do discernment and stuff is we, you know, rely on how our body feels. We rely on what we know in our senses and tactile things. And, you know, these things we can test with the senses to some extent. Like, and there's, you know, there's a limit to that sort of empirical understanding, but it is a good place to start for understanding something. If, does this feel good? What would this feel like if it was physicalized in my presence, you know?
I would almost say it's a better place to end
Oh,
rather
interesting.
than to
Yeah, yeah.
start. So one of the things that people run into with AI a lot of times is AI will spit out an answer that doesn't make sense. You know, like it just wouldn't, it doesn't make sense in the real world. Like, so
Right.
it'll go through all these like super logical steps and then it'll output, yes, I found the answer. And then the answer, you know, it's like if you've done some long division and then you come out with an answer that is bigger than you started with, then you're gonna be like, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
This doesn't make sense to me, right? Like this doesn't fit with my understanding of how the world actually is. And so I think
Right.
it's a good idea to start with empiricism and science and fact and all and this kind of like detached objectivity, whatever that might be.
Sure.
And then as long as you land in a place that makes legitimate sense in a body in a world because we live in a body in the world, then if it doesn't arrive in that place, then you got lost somewhere.
Yeah. So I'm going to take us back to the Iran situation for a second. Yeah.
Yeah, can't get enough around.
No, not today. Also, it's
One thing
horrible.
I will
And
say about that though is fuck having to know about Iran at all.
sure.
I felt this way about Gaza and Israel. I was like, I started to do a deep dive on the history of the region, and I was like,
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck. I don't care
Yeah.
what
Stop.
is
Stop
going
blowing
on
people.
there,
Can you
and
stop
I'm
blowing up brown babies? You know what I mean? Like, this is,
right,
cut it out.
exactly. Like I don't need to know who shot first. I don't need to know what is going on in the region at all. These motherfuckers do not care at all about me and them. We don't can I am so mad that I feel like I need to know the history of Persia.
Sure. I like to know the history of Persia. I,
If that's
but
what
it's a
you want to
pleasure to
do,
me.
if
It's
that's
a
how
pleasure
you
to
want
me.
to live your life is like
Yeah.
learning the history of Persia and
Sure.
the Ottoman Empire and shit like that, look, I
Yeah.
love that for you. If that's what you want to do with your life, do it up, boo boo. I'm saying I don't need, this is not what I need to be doing with my damn time.
I was talking to Jess this morning, and she was like, "Well, what have you been up to recently?" And I was like, "Well, I can talk to you how I'm pretty sure the knightly courtesy of William Marshall in the 10th and 11th or 12th and 11th centuries is the whole reason we have a democracy, or we can talk about Paracelsus's theories of internal celestial firmaments." And she's like, "What did you eat?" You know,
Sure.
like,
Yeah. I'm not mad at
have you been
nerd shit.
outside?
I love
No,
nerd
it's
shit.
nerd
I'm
shit.
just saying the requirement for me to deep dive on some shit that I don't care about for
No,
real. Like you care about Paracelsus. This is not the
I
first time
do.
Paracelsus has come up in
No,
on this show.
it's going to get worse. It's going to. I'm reading a lot
That's what
about
I'm
it right now.
saying.
It's going to happen a
Like
lot.
this is your shit and I love that
But
for
it is.
you.
But I
Anyway,
actually.
you could take
But
us back
no.
to
But
Iran if you want to. I just had to get that off my nipples.
well, but I do think there is something there that you've expressed something that I do think is actually true, which is like, other than a general human, like humans should have the right to live everywhere. Do you know what I mean? Like people should have the right to live and be left alone to live their shit. you shouldn't have to know about this stuff. Like people should we should stop fucking around in stuff we shouldn't be fucking around in. You know, like. But if we talk about the body again for a second, you know, clearly nobody took the idea of we'll just throw rockets at people into a bodied place. Because I think even if you took those knuckleheads inside and were like, what if people threw a bunch of rockets at New York City? You're like, okay. And like, and it blew up a bunch of kids' schools. Like, okay. And you're like, would you think you would give up fighting against those people? It's not like at what point would you stop fighting those people who bombed kids' schools in New York City?
Right.
And they'd be like, never. And you're like, okay, so at what point, you know, but you know, nobody did that thought exercise. Nobody thought about how that shit landed in their body, and they kept it in the math without ever bringing it into, you know what I mean, bringing it into reality at any point. And
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like it needs to arrive in that place
yeah,
where it interfaces with reality in some kind of way.
yeah. It's yeah. It's also so we were talking about patterns, and that's actually one reason I like history. Is you start to see the patterns that are happening, the story patterns that are going on. And what's interesting to me is that Trump thinks he's in a Ronald Reagan pattern. He talks about this shit a lot.
Hire a goddamn astrologer then.
He should. He should. He doesn't have an
What
Nancy.
you doing starting a war under this Mercury retrograde and fucking Pisces? My man. What are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah, they clearly did fire the astrologers, you know what I mean? Not only that, dude. It's they got rid of like 3 months ago, they decommissioned all the Minesweeper ships.
Right.
Like before you literally decommissioned them and then did this. Yeah. But he's not in a Ronald Reagan story. He's in a Jimmy Carter story. Jimmy Carter got his ass whooped by Iran.
You know? Sure.
And he hasn't realized that Jimmy Carter also thought God was telling him that he should do things a certain way, and that God was on his side, and that other people couldn't. Nobody could tell Jimmy Carter what the fuck was up, left ways or sideways. It was going to be his way or the highway, right? And very autocratic. Now, difference in that particular thing, he's a real, like, Jimmy Carter was literally spending part of his presidential day arranging the schedules of who would be allowed to use the presidential tennis court. Like, that's how much he was micromanaging everything in that White House, right?
Sure.
But he had a similar sort of megalomaniacal control feature of what was going on here. I'm going to get my way. We're the biggest country in the world. We're going to do what we want to do. We're going to do things my way. Because lots of people were telling him the whole time, they're like, I don't know, man, this whole Iran thing, kind of not going the way you think it is. And, he just ignored it. And so you got to know which story you're in, right? In order to sort of understand stuff. So this is my point about maybe you, to your point, maybe you can't change a pattern, but maybe you can pick to be a part of a different pattern, you know, like selection a little bit. Like there's multiple stories running in one situation at all times. Like, but it's useful to be able to think about how you want to color it and which one you want to be in. If you were taking what you see in your charts, in your predictions and everything else, and you're looking around, what are you thinking about in terms of what's going on and what you think is true and what you know, how you think it's going to affect your life, other people's lives, what the next, you know, people should check out your prediction, you know, the stuff with the plant cunning, folks.
Yeah.
But like, you know, when you go through the process of being like, okay, we're gonna take this quarterly look, we're gonna do a little prediction for what's happening, we're gonna take a look at this, you know, what are you calling out as things that people should be aware of? What stories are running around? that people
Oh,
should pay attention to?
sure. So, well, okay. So this coming quarter, there are two main stories. There is everything in Aries, and then a little later there's Uranus moving into Gemini and the that interaction with stuff. And so, as long as everything is in Aries, we've got Saturn there in Aries. So Saturn, Neptune. I've been describing Neptune as the wellspring of dreams, and move the wellspring of dreams into Aries, and it starts to feel like the dream of especially immediate victory. That's what
Ooh, ooh, okay,
Aries really
yeah,
loves.
the Ram
Aries loves
dream.
an immediate, exactly, and like a public victory. You know what I mean? Like we're gonna butt heads, and the other guy's gonna die, and I'm
Yeah,
fucking all the bitches now. Like that's
yeah,
that's how the Rams are gonna do it, right?
right.
And that's gonna be public. Everybody's gonna see it happen, and so that's where the wellspring of dreams is, and then we put Saturn into that space, and so Saturn is like, I don't even know what's real anymore. I'm the guy who cares about what's real and the consequences and
Yeah,
stuff like that. Neptune makes me, I don't know anything anymore. And then
right.
Saturn in Aries, again, Saturn's job is to think with long-term consequences, second, third order consequences and stuff like that. But Aries cares so much about immediacy that that shit's kind of out the window. And so the idea of like an immediate power grab, even something like Venezuela or something like that,
Yeah,
which is you know, comes off as a victory, it's still not
it's
looking very far ahead.
so that's a really great example of like how the Saturn stuff plays out, right? So you butted heads. You're the big ram. You knocked the other guy
Hmm.
out. You showed him, who's boss. Your dream of that was very swift, very powerful, everything else. Except, for example, we fucked up a bunch of Saturn things in the process, including we have all these Venezuelan oil tankers, but it's possibly illegal to sell the oil. And so we've had to like hold on to it, right? So now we've had to pay for the maintenance of these ships and this oil and hold on to them.
Nice.
And so ships that were probably worth about $17 million worth of oil have now had $23 million worth of costs while
Yeah,
we've
now
held
we're
on to
thinking
them, which is like
ahead
this
here.
perfect Saturn fuck up. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
do you see? So in that story, I understand Aries and Neptune very clearly, but is in the relationship with Saturn and Neptune, are we talking about like a drunk old man? Are we talking? You know what I mean? Like, are we talking about like?
I I prefer the image of Saturn and Aries as tyrant.
Sure. Yeah, 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 yeah. So the
So
dreams of the
again,
tyrant.
say again, the beams of the tyrant.
The Neptune piece
Dream
would
of
be
the
the
tyrant. Yeah,
dreams
yeah, yeah.
of the tyrant.
Exactly. And so the tyrant dreams of complete control,
Yeah.
And so I think that especially once we get the sun moving into Aries, which is going to happen tomorrow or something like that, then the sun is exalted in Aries. The sun does really
Yeah.
well in Aries, and so the sun's job is to be the emperor, the sovereign, the king, that one, the head of state is going to move into Aries and is going to be like, ah, yes, I am the one who is going to achieve immediate victory, right? And
Right.
then Saturn is right there, and I don't see Saturn. So Sun and Saturn are opposites. So Sun rules Leo, Saturn rules Aquarius, and so they are innately opposite. They are opposite by their nature. Saturn is dark and slow and dusky, and the Sun's job is to be youthful and vibrant and exuberant and stuff like that. So they're opposite by their nature. Saturn hates Aries, Sun loves Aries. And so I don't think that Saturn puts up any real fight. So when the sun is like, I'm going to do magnificent sun things, and I'm just going to be the baddest head of state that there ever was, and I'm going to achieve immediate victory because Neptune's right here, and I'm a little bit drunk on my power about it. Then Saturn's going to be like, yeah, there's nothing really I can do about that. And in fact, because I am also dreaming of the control mechanism of the
Yeah,
state,
yeah.
I'm gonna throw my weight behind that. And so it's a little bit like when I was a part of RuneSoup and Gordon was forecasting an immediate end to the world, then one of the things that he said was that they're going to make a control play and
Yeah.
it's not going to work because that's not how the world works. And so then after they like grab all of this control with CBDCs and whatever else, then they're going to have control for a second and then it's going to break. And
Yeah.
I think that that prediction is correct. And I think that that
I think
is
so
what we're
too.
going to see happen in this Aries moment. Then also Mars is going to move into Aries and it's just going to be fucking gear grindy as shit up in there.
Yeah.
It's all Mars everything. You know, Mars is just ruling everything in Aries. And then there's this big new moon there also that like is it's a mess. It is a whole ass mess. And that to me looks like it's extremely frustrating and gear grindy and all friction all the time. This looks like to me you realize that war is horrific and that you don't win immediately. And especially in this new technological moment, we're in a moment
Yeah.
where the technology hasn't been tried yet, and so no one really knows how it's going to go. I think that the closest thing that we can see there is we can look at Ukraine and see how Ukraine was supposed to
Yeah.
roll over and die immediately. And here we are 4 years later, and that conflict is still going on, and the lines haven't really shifted as much as anyone thought they
Nope.
would. So
Nope.
the so we can look at that and be like, okay, so the power dynamic isn't what you thought it was. The big one, it might not be the big one, the way that you thought it was. But that doesn't mean that they have transformed into the small one. It just
No.
means that now there's a big fight and it's really difficult and horrific. And so I think that that's what we see with Mars and Saturn together. So I see you have a question. I want to get to that, but I want to make my
Do
point
you
first.
think? Do you think? Do you think?
In Aries, with all this going on here, I think the main thing for us to remember is that burnout is what we're seeing on the not only on the world stage but on the personal stage. Burnout is what is likely to go on here, especially if we're in an environment where if we're in an information environment where things only get louder and faster all the time, then that is likely to have a burnout effect. Also, all of the work that you're trying to put in isn't yielding what you had hoped
Sure.
it was going to. The
Yep.
economy starts to tank. They print a bunch of money, so now all the money that you had been making isn't the same amount of money that it was supposed to be. All this sort of stuff. This looks like it is major recipe for burnout, and so it's a good idea to get ahead of that however you can. And if getting ahead of that means buying some Milky Oat tops to have in the crib so
Right.
that you can have them in the crib already, then that might be something to think about, because the idea that you're gonna get ahead of it by outworking it now is like that's not real. So don't think about that. Think about how you're going to navigate adrenal fatigue.
Right. Yeah. 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 See, I like all of that, and I like the how are you going to navigate the adrenal fatigue question, right? Because it opens up a larger question about how are you going to tell the story you're in order to make it fruitful to you instead of just destroying you, in these different ways.
Hmm.
So it's interesting, the idea of, I know you're not exactly saying this. You're giving me ideas though, of leaning into an interesting Saturn idea of hoarding, right? Of getting things you want and putting them away. Like, so there's Saturn energy in this space, right? The reason I'm thinking with this is, as you were talking, the two stories that came to mind for me, in terms of the tyrant and then in terms of the technological warfare kind of thing. For the tyrant, it's the story Antigone, the play Antigone, and then for the warfare, it's a very World War One conversation. There's an
Hmm.
incredibly it's a Mars to Saturn kind of conversation.
I was
So
gonna go Civil War with that, but
sure, Civil War would also be an excellent example because they're actually very similar in the same issue.
yeah, new tech that well,
New tech.
and they're astrologically very similar as well. But
So
there was a
yeah,
Saturn Neptune conjunction in Aries in the Civil War. Also Uranus and Gemini.
when do you know when that happened?
Off the dome, I don't.
Okay, yeah. So Civil War is great as an example here for that piece. So I'll come back to Antigone in a second. One of the reasons the Civil War was so bloody is, as you've already intimated, that the technology had changed, but the tactics had not. Another reason that the World War One was so devastating, similar kind of thing. Technology had changed, but not everybody understood the change in technology and the new tactics very quickly. One of the things about the Civil War is that most of the people in there who are become generals were actually young officers during the Mexican-American War. And what they saw in the Mexican-American War was that due to the increased power of artillery and the speed at which you could move, fixed fortifications were a bad idea. Like having a fort doesn't do you much good, right? You just fucking blow that apart with cannon and go right in and kill everybody. Like that's the way you do it. Consequently, they didn't spend a lot of time making a lot of forts and doing stuff like that. They wanted to move fast and break shit, right? As a basic theory of how they fought. But in the 30 years that intervene between those two time periods, you have a massive advance in rifled musket technology, so that like guns get way more accurate and they're faster, and you're starting to see the first repeating guns, this kind of stuff, repeating rifles come out. And so while it made sense in the 1830s to have a square or a line of men charge 2 miles across a field and fuck up some dudes with bayonets, in this time period you now get Gettysburg and you get or Antietam, and you get just a shit ton of people killed in minutes. The thing to think with there was actually the people who were right about this, because there were thinkers in the time period who had realized what was happening. They tended to lean into the Saturnian nature of things. So real fast, Battle of Gettysburg. In the middle of it, General Longstreet, who's working with Lee, says, "This is stupid. We're not going to take these positions. This isn't going to work. We should just retreat, make the enemy come to us. We're between him and his home. We should just pull back, make him fight us on our own terms." In a very Ares and Sun kind of way, the Confederate generals were like, "No, we're going to win. We're going to batter our head right against those other guys. They don't have the courage to take us. Fuck them. We're gonna do this." And they got their asses handed to them, and it broke the back of the South. The person who was correct there was the Saturnian, take it slow, pull it back, don't just dive into this other thing. And I wonder if how you think about the story pattern of, in a place where it looks like there's going to be a lot of burnout, grinding energy, this kind of stuff, like all that martial solar stuff is going to be very tempting and very powerful, but you do have some Saturn around. You have these other, because we never lose all the stars, right? We have some of the planets are highlighted,
present.
And it's present. Do you think that that's one of the ways you would think about dealing with adrenal fatigue, is taking a Saturnian remedy, like to steal some of that power that's in the air but turn it to your own advantage?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about how to make use of this Saturn and Aries, because my first go-to is Saturn and Aries is just trash, and I don't like it.
That's fair.
So, but we're gonna have it for 2.5 years, and also there's gonna be hella people with Saturn and Aries who are gonna be delightful people who do a good job in their lives and stuff like that. So, like, I got to think beyond this thing, which, like, don't make a talisman with Saturn and Aries.
No,
you know what I mean?
No,
but like, there's gonna be something here that's gonna be useful or something like that, right? And I'm not entirely sure. So the thing about the thing about trying to do Saturn in a moment like this is that it doesn't work really. So the story you just told is like, oh, there's this guy who's got this great Saturn advice, and
Yeah.
everybody's like, "Fuck you, man," and they just
Yeah,
do what
totally.
they do,
They do what
and
they're going to
they
do anyway. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so nobody listens to Saturn, right? So my thought here, and what I said on the Planet Cutting show, is less do Saturn and more appropriately do Aries. So Aries is very strong on the front end. That it cares a lot about that short-term victory, right? Aries loves a sprint. Aries does not like a marathon. And so trying to run a marathon when it's all Aries everything is swimming upstream.
Right, right, right.
So, how can you make the sprint work for you? So, I have Mars in Aries, I have a natal Mars in Aries, and the way that I deal with that is I take a nap every day. I'm real good in the morning time. I'm good. Sunrise is a good time for me. I've been doing daily forecasts for like 9 years. Right there you see the sun shining in my face every day, every morning. Right, like I'm good at this time of day. I'm saying coherent things and stuff like that. I make it to 1 p.m. and I don't have any left in the tank. I'm done. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so what I do about that is I go to sleep and then I get up again, and now I have a second morning. And so I sprint another time. You know what I mean? So instead of trying to make myself do a marathon and just grit and go get through it, instead of trying to Saturn the thing, I Aries the thing. And so to my mind, if we are going to do good Saturn in Aries, it's going to be a strong. So Saturn is going to be this like maturity, discipline. What is real in the world? It's tangible. The Saturn makes it real. It's the bones of the thing. And so if we consider Aries to be the real thing, then we need to get real
Right.
about what Aries actually is. And so if Aries is a sprinter, then we need to make way for the sprint to happen. We need to
You're
recognize that and behave accordingly.
you're giving me a lot of cool ideas here in terms of story stuff too. So Saturn as the coach in this circumstance,
Sure.
right? Sprinter, when you watch sprinters, they just want to run, man. They just they just want to fucking go. You have to be like, no, you have to go rest. You have to go lay down. You know, and but the delusional thing, the Saturn getting obsessed with its own stuff is exactly as you described. No, no, go run a marathon, right? Like, and so I love the idea of like, because I love the idea of again how these all come together, like the sort of balancing out the composition of these elements. And so it is both wrong to what's wrong is marathon from both sides. It's wrong for Aries and it's actually wrong for Saturn, right? Like that's the wrong that's a trash combination in this moment. What's right is like take a nap after your sprint and do that every day. Like like make that your practice
Right.
to do that.
Do that for the long term.
Right.
How can
But
you make
don't
sprinting your long term plan?
yeah, yeah,
Because you're
yeah.
not going to sprint for 3 years,
No.
but
No.
you can sprint every day for 3 years.
Yes, for 3 years. Yes, that's really wise, and it's really a fun. It's a fun way to think with it. So the dictator thing for a second, when I was, and is friends and family. It has been a long time since I read Antigone. If I am getting things mixed up, like I apologize. But part of the purpose of Antigone is you have a tyrant who's taken over the city, right? Creon, and this person has Creon has forbidden the proper burial of Antigone's brother, and in his maniacal tyrantness has gone against the mourning, right? And Antigone's mourning and her grief, which is out of bounds, is too much grief in some ways, but it is also triggered by this extremity of circumstance of her brother's body not being buried appropriately. But that grief is enough to break the power of the tyrant to some extent, right? Again, this idea that like improper Saturn, right? That Saturn Mars you were talking about of the tyrant, right? This stuff, this combination that's making things too, and then add in the idea of Neptune, so the megalomaniacal piece of this. right? Like I don't have to pay attention to what the gods say. I don't have to pay attention to proper order. Just do whatever I want, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That actually is what brings you down, and the allowing for the proper Saturnian things, allowing for these mourning, allowing for these other things in their right channel is more useful at that point in time than buying into the delusional stuff that can happen. Yeah, it's, it doesn't end well for Antigone. So, I'm not sure that's necessarily the story you want to loop into. Didn't end up well for James Longstreet either, by the way. So, I don't know if I'm giving a lot of good advice right now, but it is interesting to be able to think with how do you adjust to the stream that you're in, so that you can get where you're going. I really like your sprinting thing. I think that's the best story that's come out of this little muddle we've tangled ourselves in. But yeah, that's cool. It's cool. And this is what I mean about, like, for magicians, shaping your reality inside the pattern is part of the game. It's part of what happens. Like, we can let the philosophers have their acceptance, right? The Chris Brennans of the world can just accept stoically that shit happens. And honestly, fine. Like, I'm not actually mad at them for doing that much. But I think there's a lot of power in deciding, okay, I'm going to take care of my burnout that's possible right now by taking a nap. I'm going to get in the flow of what's happening in the right way so that it works better for me than if I was doing all the dumb things and trying to fight against it and not trying to connect to the pattern. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So the thing about all this Aries stuff is that it's going to want to fight, right? And so maybe this is going to be in in this literal space of war and stuff like that. But then also, it's going to be squabbly. It's going to be squabbly with your people in your sphere of influence. Like, it's going to be people ready to fight a lot of times. You know what I mean? And so there's something there about there's this great meme that I love so much that is, pick your battles. No, that's too many battles. No. That's still too many. Put some back. That's still too many battles. No, choose fewer battles than that.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
totally.
so this is going to be that moment where it's like, I don't need to die on every hill. I don't have to fight every fight. I don't have to, every time somebody has a bullshit take on social media, I don't need to be in the comment section. I don't need to be mad. I don't even need to, like, I found myself, especially since the war started, then there's so many, they are anti-war takes. And so I want to be on board, but it's just like all Americans are the worst people ever or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, terrible takes.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I just scroll past them shits. You know what I mean? Because I can recognize that I am being rage baited. And so as soon as my heart goes, pop, pop, and then I'll be like, no, we're not doing that. We're not going to the next slide. I don't want to see what other well, I don't need to get in the comment section to see what other people are saying about it. I need to bounce is what I need to do. I need to put some music on because I like music.
Yes. And there is something, if folks are feeling like they need to do something kind of thing, living a life that refuses to get caught up in this stuff, that believes in beauty and pleasure and, tries to live a good life, is an act of resistance when the algorithm is literally trying to be like, rage bait, please. Let me have all your attention and anger. To be like, no, you know what? I'm going to go get a coffee with a friend is actually very good in the world. It's a very good thing to do.
Yeah. And the way that I like to think about this is I'm not just picking my battles so that I don't have to fight so many battles, but it's also so that I can win the ones that matter. Because winning is very important to Aries. And let's not forget, I have Mars and Aries. Part of what I need in the world is to be the baddest motherfucker you've ever seen in your life. And so, and publicly, I need you
Yes.
to notice that I'm the baddest, right? And so
Yeah.
that means that I'm going to keep my mouth shut until this is a hill that I'm going to die on, and I'm going to eviscerate my opponents.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I wish people would spend more time thinking about this anyway. I mean, the application of your force where you can do force to win is actually really great. And I've resisted long enough. Like, you're literally quoting Sun Tzu at me, and I haven't even mentioned him yet. And it's like, it took me a good 4 minutes, but it's there. But yeah, not every city needs to be taken. Not every battle needs to be won. If you want to win the overall strategy, this is again, do you want a gold medal in being a sprinter, or do you want to waste because you're good at it, or do you want to waste your time training marathons, which you're not good at, right? You know what I mean? Like, part of the way you win as being a sprinter is you take a lot of naps.
Right. And also, you gain your own respect this way,
Yes. Yep.
which is, to me, this is something that came up a lot in Which Way to Wisdom, which is my course on spirituality for the future that we actually live in. It's like, how are you going to come to a sense of morality if you don't believe in a bearded sky god who wants to tell you you're a bad girl? You know what I mean? Like, how do you navigate morality in that space? And
Just as a note, people seeking bearded sky gods who will tell you you're a bad girl. You can find me on Substack. You can
shout out to wilkinsbryan.com. You're gonna we know where to find him.
if Zamboni's offering you useful paths to enlightenment. If you're just looking for a sort of kink situation, I can help you out. It's fine.
Indeed.
I got you. Yeah.
So, okay. In the absence of going to wilkinsbryan.com and being told from the outside that I'm a bad girl,
Right.
then how am I going to find a morality or a sense of ethics that really matters? And it's sort of like foregrounding my own self and gaining my own respect. So how do I feel about myself when I am
Yeah.
by myself? And in that space and in that, like, if I held my tongue until it was time to unleash, and then I won the battle that actually mattered, and I didn't waste my time doing a bunch of bullshit, getting mired in petty squabbles, then at least to me, who is all that matters to me, is, to me, I can respect myself more in that space.
Yeah. And and you'll know what your version of that is because it is attractive to you. Right? Like, you are like, ooh, it feels sexy to win. You know what I mean? Like, to hold my silence, to wait, to be brave enough and controlled enough to wait until it's time for me to win, and then I'm going to step in and win. Like, that feels really good. I like that too. You know what I mean? Like, that's a thing. There are some people who could argue that they feel that same kind of frisson, that same kind of attraction to the idea of getting a ton of fights every day, right? Like they say that that's what they want.
For sure.
But here's
Sometimes I do readings for people who have Mars in the seventh house. And they're like, why am I fighting with my partner all the time? I'm like, but you low-key love this, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's energizing. But I think that I think is the difference, is the concept of the happy warrior here. Like,
Sure.
if you're bopping along being like, oh, I just feel so energized all the time. I just won 13 internet arguments and I feel great. You know what I mean?
The thing is, no one actually wins internet arguments. You never.
no one wins. You never win. And this
Right.
this is what I'm getting at, is that, like, we can hypothetically think this person exists, right? That there is a happy internet warrior who's just like live. But I would say when we get into the body, when we get into like reality in the world we live in, I don't think anybody knows that person. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think, like,
Right. Yeah, the
You
people that
know,
I'm reading for with Mars in the Seventh who low-key love fighting with their partner, like that's a real thing. And I think that those
yeah,
people do actually love that situation, even if they like love to hate it, you know?
yeah,
And I think that
yeah,
maybe I love to hate it is part of the
sure,
internet warrior
sure,
situation.
yeah.
But I do think that ultimately there's this sense that it drags you down.
It drags you down, and I think that's the thing that it's worth in our terms of like how do we find out what's true? How do we find if something's true? If you are being dissipated by the things that you are doing, if you are feeling
Mm-hmm.
weaker and pulled in a ton of directions, you're like, I'm stressed. I've self-diagnosed with like internet ADHD. I can't focus on anything. My life is miserable. I can't, you know what I mean? Like all this stuff. This is not working, chum. You know what I mean? Like this is you're not in your power. You're not feeling in your power. Your idea that this is where you're drawing power from, this is probably not true because you're not seeing the results of this in the way that your pattern is making you feel worse all the time. Then that's, you know, you got to stop telling yourself that that's how that works. I had to quit using Twitter. I had to
Sure.
stop. And actually, in terms of like, you know,
No, no,
some
no.
some
You got
good
to do what
advice.
I do, which is let it play to its strength. I use Twitter only for porn.
Sure,
This,
sure.
this is the
That's what
same as
That's what Reddit
sprinting
is for.
and not running the marathon. That's what it's for. That's what it excels in this space.
Yeah, this is what Reddit is for. Like this is, you know, that
Sure.
and like
Yeah,
fixing
yeah, yeah.
things. Yeah,
6 to 1,
yeah,
half dozen the other.
exactly. But spending time on social media, trying to produce for social media, for me,
Sure.
was dissipating my energy. It was keeping me from writing things. It was distracting me. Right. That's not true for everybody, but it was true for me. And so, in order to, what I learned about myself in that process was, where am I actually feeling strong? Oh, if I read more books, if I spend more time writing, I'm getting more stuff out. I actually feel better. I was anxious about how people would see my tweets. I was trying to be clever all the time, so clever became my main mode of being.
So
You know,
here's the thing though. Like, I think that it's going to be really easy for the social media warrior to be like, no, it's everyone else's fault.
oh, interesting.
Especially with two malefics and the sun in
Sure,
Aries. It's going to be
sure.
so easy to just be like,
It's
I
a
am perfect and everyone in the world is terrible and I have to fight
yeah,
all of you because it's like, you like cut off the head of the Hydra and then three more heads show up and
yeah.
you just don't clock that is not that cutting the heads off is not doing it. So you're like, I have to cut off all the heads. And so you just keep going. And especially like it was the self-diagnosed internet ADHD that made me think about that. You know what I mean? Like,
Right,
because self-diagnosed internet ADHD just wants to doom scroll all day.
right, right. We're not talking about a real
It wants
condition.
to
We're not
double
talking.
down on it.
Yeah, there's real shit here. Do you know what I mean? Like people, people. We were not built to live in this world of like sit in one place and be constantly distracted. Your brain is revolting against that, and ADHD is a totally real thing. But if you suddenly have it because you haven't put down your phone, you know, you know what I mean? Like that's a
Totally.
different.
I
Or if
I
it goes
agree with
away when
you.
you put your phone down. Yeah, exactly. But no,
I'm
I agree.
saying I'm just saying that I don't know has the self-awareness. Like so I
Right.
guess
In
what
this
the
space. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I guess the advice or medicine here is cultivate a self-awareness practice. Like
Dude,
sit down and
I
meditate and see which thoughts are your thoughts and
it's
like this is the discernment piece again,
it's always fucking sit down and meditate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
right.
the answer from magicians is always sit down and meditate. And it is actually good. Or pray or go outside for a walk, whatever you want to do, but like
Sure, sure.
it is always right. The it's like how the answer when you're in Sunday school is always Jesus. You know what I mean? It's like
Right, right, right.
Jesus. But I did see in the social media I still allow myself, which is Substack. There's this guy, and I'm gonna get his name wrong because it's something like it's meant to be a joke on Confucius, but his name is actually like Cuckfuckius or something on like
Yeah, sure.
yeah. But he was talking about the difference between self improvement and cultivation. And I liked that difference. Like self improvement has this sort of like productivity goal metric attached to it. Like I'm going to achieve certain benchmarks of selfness, and then I'm going to, Whereas cultivation just has more about like, what would I like in this garden? What would I like to see here? What's going to make me happy? And I think what you just said there about like cultivating some time about like, what do I like? What do I even want to do? What makes me happy? What,
How do I want to feel, and which things
yeah,
could I do that would generate that feeling?
dude, if I don't get about an hour's worth of movement in first thing in the day, I'm not good. You got to take this boy for a walk.
Exercise
You know
is
what I
so
mean?
annoyingly effective. It
It,
is.
really,
It really is.
it really is an annoyingly effective.
This meme that I love said, it's crazy how the only two options are running 5 times a week or suicidal ideation.
Right, exactly. That's it. That's what I got.
There are two options, so choose.
Yeah, yeah. Drinking enough water,
Sure.
like, and although you've said something now twice, but I wanted to come back to, which is a couple different memes you've quoted here, and I want to point out that I think memes are our new aphorisms. You know what I mean? Like, you can go into a room with people and go, "It's fine," and everyone immediately sees the dog with the fire in the
This
back.
is fine.
Yeah, this is fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I hope my page. I thought I ran an astrology page. I run a meme page for real.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I share memes every day, and they do way better. They do such. They do 4-5x what the forecasts do. Nobody gives a shit about the astrology,
Yeah.
but man, they like these fucking memes. And so I use that as a space to cultivate. I think of it as a space where I don't just cultivate the audience, but I cultivate something in the audience that can be more
Yes.
toward the more beautiful life the more beautiful world that our hearts know is possible. Like,
Yeah.
and I try to do it in this space where like I follow a lot of like positivity meme pages,
Sure.
and they get so trite sometimes,
Yeah.
like with the hand holding frogs, or the like light shining on it with the inspirational quote and shit like that. It's just
Yep.
like, come on, bro. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't have the same sharp wit that a lot of sardonic humor has.
Yeah.
And so I walk this tightrope between trying to build positivity and trying to not curse my readers.
Right. Yes.
And so
It's
like jokes are such a tightrope with this, and I don't know how to navigate that except on vibes right now.
I mean, vibes are probably the best way, but I saw one in the last couple of days that was sort of this for me. You know what I mean? And it was, the top was just a picture of a crab, and it was like, humans. Why does everything, evolve to crab? Why does everything do this? And then it said also humans, so it's one of those, and also kind of things. It just showed the like tongs you get to like rip shit. But the best part of it was it had clickety clickety click in between the tongs. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, this is like hieroglyphic poetry. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is really good because you can feel that, right? You're like, I have myself taken these tongs and gone
Right.
click 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 with my hand.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna run a bad spell by you, and I want
run a bad
you
spell.
to help me to understand what is so whack about this. So, Trash Jones tweeted, "Praying to God is low key embarrassing. Like, girl, if he wanted to, he would." Are you familiar with "if he wanted to, he would"?
Not as much, but I
Oh, it's
can
an internet trend that is like,
yeah.
like if your boyfriend wanted to text you back, then you
would.
wouldn't have
Yeah.
to beg him.
Yeah,
So dump
exactly.
him.
If he yeah, exactly. If he wanted to take out the trash, he would.
Right.
Like yeah. So
So to my mind, this is terrible magic. This is the worst magic
Yes.
possible, right? Like
For a
you're
lot of reasons.
right, but like I laughed. I I screenshotted it and thought about it. I was like, do I ser-
Well,
do I share
it's just
this with my
Calvinism.
audience? It would resonate with my audience.
This could be written by John Calvin. Like, this is,
Okay.
so
Nerd alert.
I'm about to. Here we go. If you think if you buy the bullshit of an omnipotent, omniscient, angry bearded God fella,
Oh, she's
The-
such a bad girl.
she's such a bad. I'm gonna let you say it. It sounds better when you say it. Then, if he wanted to, he would. Is what predestination is all about?
Right.
You're already in the zone. There's nothing you can do about it. Just like it, and it also is like if you're like, oh man, I got cancer, I'm gonna pray to God to save me, and it's like, why bother? You are predestined to have this cancer.
Right.
God
for
probably
sure.
gave it to you
Yeah,
for
yeah.
your sins. You're a piece of shit.
Yeah, just ask Job.
Yeah. The question then is, why is it bad magic? Right? Like, what is bad about this? And
Well, it discourages prayer for one thing.
discourages prayer. Also discourages the idea that you can do anything in your life, that you
Yeah.
have agency. You know what I mean? That you have any kind of, and it leads you to the position that I think all predestination and Calvinist points of view lead you, which is, fuck it, I'll just, anything that happens just happens. There's no reason to think about anything, or you know what I mean? Like, you just become a machine. You just buy into being the machine.
Right.
Usually to justify your own pleasures in sort of some weird roundabout way, and almost always ending in murder. Like this almost always ends in murder is the thing. So, but the question there is, wait, are you asking me? Let me clarify what you're asking. Are you asking why this is bad? We know why it's bad magic.
No,
Are you asking
I know why
how
it's
we
bad
can
magic.
fix it,
No.
or should
no.
you give it? No.
I
So
fix
should
memes
you
all
give
the time. And
I do like
and then
when you
I
fix
just
a meme,
send them
actually.
out, and I'm like, oh, this is a bad spell, but only because it's missing this word, or
Mm-hmm.
because it's making fun of someone else. But if I make it make fun of me, then
Yeah, it's better. Yeah, no, I like when you fix the memes. So, what are you asking me in terms of the
my
magic here?
so really the question is, how should I respond to this person that I was talking to, where I was like, this is a bad spell, and I sent it, and she was like, what do you mean this is a bad spell? And I was like I don't know how to respond to that because it's so clear to me, and
Yeah, and that it's a curse. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly, like it's clearly a curse to me. And maybe we're into if he wanted to he would territory, and I don't want to. So maybe that's what's going
You've
on.
been caught. You've been caught by the power of this curse.
Right.
No, I pray you, Zamboni. Do something else. No, I think
You don't have to answer that question.
no. I have a good one. I have it.
Okay,
Because the thing is that, like, why? What is the worst kind of here? So Gordon and I believe Gordon also is quoting indigenous folks when he's talking about this. Is bad metaphors are bad spells. Bad metaphors are
Right.
curses. And but I would say a worse spell is a good bad metaphor. In other words, like, it's something that's attractive enough to trap you. Right? That's a really good curse. Like, I don't want to just like send an idea that gets into somebody's head that they're like, ugh, I hate when I think about this. I want one that they buy into and slowly poison themselves with over time. And
Sure.
that's what's happening there, because you have been given a confectionery treat of the if he wanted to he would. It's something you're familiar
right.
with already. But this is actually masking a thing that strips you of all your power. It's a Trojan horse to take everything from you in the space
Right.
of
Okay, so this is the same thing as hip hop has a COINTELPRO problem. The
yes.
illest hip hop is terrible.
we we travel so far. I fucking love this. Continue, please continue.
Well, like, because so this is a problem that I run into as an artist all the time because I'm like trying to
Yeah,
make the world a better place, the more beautiful world that our hearts know is possible. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then, so I'll make some music that's on some positive shit and I'll be like, this is corny as fuck.
right.
Whereas if you listen to Future or if you listen to BIG, like BIG is a good example because I use BIG as my example chart for in astrology from the
Mm-hmm.
ground up. So I teach you how to read your chart, and there's like a workbook about that, and then I
Yeah,
go through and I do the whole thing for BIG, and so I really like it. But
yeah.
his music is so horrifying. You know what I mean? He creates this character that is the worst person possible and he's aware of it and he even commits suicide at the end of his first album. And it's but like it's so compelling. I
Mm-hmm.
love this music. You know what I mean? And something about it is so much more compelling than that corny ass bullshit that I put together when it's positive, when it's like,
Yeah.
you know, like, ugh.
There.
So
So
sardonic humor is the same way. You know what I mean?
yeah, 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 yeah. There's a mode in which it is freeing, and there's a mode in which it chains you down. And I think that's actually the how you sort of know it's playing a deadly game. Basically, a lot of these artistic movements are
Yeah, yeah.
really
It's
on
a
the
real
line.
gamble.
It's a real gamble, and it's also a gamble as to whether people will listen to you the right way. Like you can do some
I
really
heard that.
sarcastic shit, and people are like, "I take that authentically with sincerity," and you're like,
Hmm.
"I did not intend you. This is a satire. You should not be taking this." And they're like, "You don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to take it this way." So like it's tough on that one too. I think we are innately drawn to drama. We want drama. We want to
Hmm.
see.
Hmm.
We want because in some ways it's the same thing of like, why do women love true crime as a genre? Because well,
Sure.
they have a legitimate need to try to figure out who might be trying to murder them. Like
Hmm.
that's. So there's
Yeah,
something
and then
that's
it just
happening
turns
there.
into more and more and more because you're
And
like,
if you
so,
you can get obsessed and it can trap
yeah.
you, you know what I mean. But it but it comes out of a reasonable place. Our ballads, our murder ballads, our stories about like
Yep.
crime or being awful, these are important parts of us, and
Hmm.
and we need to talk about them. But to your point, if they never resolve, and this is why the Greeks were really worried about catharsis, and they were really worried about like the
Mm.
resolution of tragedy, because if it's just dark, everybody leaves and is like, I don't know, man, maybe I'll just kill myself. Like I don't, like I don't know what I'm gonna
Hmm.
do here. But if you get to catharsis, where you can feel the release of this darkness that has been held inside you, and it's freed by the theatrical imposition, you're able to sort of almost like someone giving their sin to a sin eater, like let this
Mm.
express itself and come and feel lighter and freer and gain power and strength from it. Then it's pretty cool. As part of the new book, I spent a lot of time listening to what are called the Blackjack Davy child ballads. And so it's like it's this story that starts as a song called the Raggle Taggle Gypsy in like the 16th century. And it's based on a historical event basically, and then it just becomes mythologized over time, and then people are still doing versions of this song. Jack White did a cover of this song, right?
Mm.
And it's a story of a woman who leaves her rich husband's house to go and run away with the in the song called the Gypsy folks who were there, and to leave her life of luxury and her child in a lot of versions and her husband for freedom of poverty and everything else, based on a true story. The guy who she left was a northern English Scottish lord, and he hung everybody who had his wife had gone away with. You know what I mean? Like it's a dark fucking story. People have struggled with various parts of this story for like 3 centuries now.
Mm.
Sometimes the story emphasizes what it was like for her to leave the child.
Mm.
Either from her point of view or from a loving husband's point of view, that she
Mm.
needed this freedom, but she left the child behind.
Mm.
sometimes it's all about his control. Sometimes it's a mourning for the this musician who fell in love with a woman who was in a bad circumstance, and she left with him, and he ended up getting killed for it. Sometimes it's just a celebration of what it's like that you'd rather sleep on the cold ground with someone you actually love than in a castle with a soft bed with a man that you hate. You know. But grappling with that, like I think almost all versions of the song end up freeing you. People may not like the freedom you choose from this one, but it does end up freeing you. So I think it's the same with any of the sort of like good murder ballads. But there's a ton of stories that are also just like, and my wife cheated on me, so I killed her in a horrific way, and now I wrote a song about it. And you're like, I don't think this is helping anybody. I think this is just feeding our desire for trauma. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure how to engage with that. I'm not sure what the correct move there is. It's probably a moving goalpost.
What do you think? So, I think one of the weirdest genres for this is gospel and is church music, because you get an awful lot of like blood of Christ murdered on a cross, you know what I mean? Like kind of shit in there, but you also get a lot of uplifting, kind of stuff. Like you get a lot of positivity too.
Yeah, that's one of the genres that I would actually think of as being most straightforwardly positive.
Right.
Like, there's a
Right.
there's a certain amount of blood in it, but like the blood is it's usually not like used in a horrific sense.
No,
It's
yeah.
not like kick in the door, wave in the 4-4. All you heard was Papa don't hit me no more. Like, yo,
Yeah.
this is on the radio? You know what I mean? Like it's almost never in that context. Like the blood, it's like it's
You
already
should
transmutated.
you should do a gospel version of that. It'd be really good. Bring that to
Yeah,
church
yeah,
on
yeah.
Sunday.
So I'm not. I don't know. There's
But
a
gospel works for positivity is what I'm saying. Like people buy in.
sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, because you've already bought into the church thing. You know what I mean?
The whole
And
culture. Yeah.
gospel actually like it runs into the same problem as Christian rock, which is
Yeah.
like you're like gospel hip hop. It gets real corny,
Yeah.
and this is the thing. You know what I mean? I think that there should like if God is this powerful, my man can't have a genre of music that
Listen, the
hits
devil
as
has the
hard
good
as
tunes.
gangster rap does.
No man, the devil
My
has the
man,
good
like,
tunes.
what are we doing here? I'm not sure. Anyway, if the people like what I'm talking about, then they can go to zambonifunk.com. They can get a reading at any time. These shits are mad affordable. I don't know if you know that. $36 is a fucking deal out here in these streets.
Is a deal.
And you should probably take that. So you should go to zambonifunk.com and get a quick video reading there, or you maybe want to learn how to do readings for your damn self. And if that is true, then you should go to zambonifunk.com and you should check out astrology from the ground up. But maybe you want a geomancy reading, in which case you should go to wilkinsbryan.com. Is there anything else available for the people there at wilkinsbryan.com, sir?
No, these days mostly geomancy. I mean, you can find some of the poetry stuff and some of the connections there too. But just as a reminder, speaking of poetry, I'm doing a thing where if you get a geomancy reading, I'm actually building out poetic charms for people now as well. So you'll walk away with a little piece of magic that you can put in your pocket and work with the reading from that. So I don't know if poetry is a deterrent to getting the reading, but you're
Have you been
welcome.
selling fewer of them since you've been doing the
I
poems?
have been. I have been selling viewers, but but it's a good time, and geomancy, like getting into these ideas of stories and archetypes and everything else, is a real pleasure to get to do with people. So look me up. I'm happy to have a chat with you, and again, you should go and visit Zamboni. There's a lot of really great stuff in the charts, and getting your year ahead is another thing I recommend everybody to do. If you're looking around feeling kind of anxious, Get a year ahead. It will very much help you. And in fact, I'm scheduling mine with him relatively soon, so it's important to get yourself set up for the year. So.
Hell
And then you
yeah.
can also have the pleasure of these kind of crazy conversations back and forth. Like it's not like you gatekeep these things. They can ask you about all kinds of shit.
Oh yeah, totally, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's preferred that way, honestly. Like
Yeah.
so I try to discourage the idea that I'm just gonna get in there and talk for an hour.
Yeah.
Which I can do. There's plenty to talk about, and I got a gang of shit that I could say, but it's always a much better experience for both of us and that's part of the reason why I put a question in the intake form. I make you ask a question, and then on the day of, I'm going to make you ask a question also, because maybe you don't even want that question anymore. Maybe you've been thinking about it
Yeah.
for a little while, and that ain't even it. I'm interested in this other thing over here. And then those people who are so engaged and having the conversation such that it's a dialogue, those are always the best readings.
Yeah.
And I love them so much. I really love the way that reading for people makes me feel. Like a good reading, at the end of a
Yeah.
good reading, I love that shit. It feels like something special has happened. I really love
I
it.
absolutely agree. Yeah, it's a privilege to do. It's a privilege to receive, and I think a lot about the people I've read for where that's the case, where you have that actual back and forth. It's a very lovely, intimate experience to get to do that with somebody and move along those ways.
Yeah, people say nice things in the reviews and stuff like that, but it's really like the feeling in my own body that I do it for.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Speaking of that feeling, I should go to bed. It's hitting that time. I should.
All right, yeah, everybody go to wilkinsbryan.com. Check out the flip. Bye.